Just a few months ago, the big players on the world stage were tripping over themselves to come out and recognize Juan Guaido as the legitimate president of Venezuela.
We are ready to recognize Juan Guaido as interim president.
We will recognize him as constitutional interim president.
We stand ready to recognize Juan Guaido as the interim president of Venezuela.
Guaido even sent representatives out to different nations around the world, despite them not receiving diplomatic credentials in some countries. Like here in Germany, where we have a situation that the ambassador who sits in the embassy just behind me represents a government deemed illegitimate, while the representative of the government deemed legitimate holds no diplomatic rank. Here in Germany, though, that hasn't stopped Guaido's man from at least calling himself ambassador.
In Venezuela, we are living under a dictatorship. There needs to be international pressure to end the usurpation of power. When we can have a real transitional government, so we can hold elections, then we can have our consulates and embassies.
Full steam ahead for regime change as politicians and news networks cheered each official that defected from the Maduro government. But then there was the failed coup attempt in the Bolivarian Republic and the standoff outside of the Venezuelan embassy in Washington.
We managed to bring this issue to international attention, and we've been part of the effort to stop the U.S. meddling in the internal affairs of Venezuela. We're trying to save the Vienna Conventions and international law.
Now, with a German parliamentary inquiry finding that Germany's recognition of Guaido as president was shaky at best under international law, the foreign ministry here is less than committed when it comes to talking about furthering relations and talks with the representatives of the man who would be leader of Venezuela. It's a similar story in other EU nations. In Spain, for example, they also welcomed the representative of Juan Guaido without conveying any diplomatic rank. Basically, it means that Mr. Guaido's representatives can meet and talk with foreign ministry officials, but very little else. Despite European leaders joining in the cheers for change early on in Venezuela, the reality today is they have taken a position that's much more on the fence. But one of these days, they're going to have to come down on one side or the other, as they find out it can be quite easy to make big political statements. But if you don't think through how they're going to be put into action, it can just cause more problems down the line.
Peter Oliver reporting there. Well, Andre Hunko, an MP for Germany's Left Party, thinks that EU states and Germany in particular do have good reasons not to recognise Guaido's ambassadors.
German foreign policy always recognised states, but not individual persons. And now we see all the chaos coming out of this situation because Guaido has no real power, Maduro has a real power in Venezuela. And for pragmatic reasons, Germany is still recognizing the Maduro embassy here and is dealing with them in consulatory issues. On the other hand, the representative of Guaido, Mr. Gebauer, is recognized as a political representative of Guaido, but not as an ambassador. Pragmatical issues, German foreign ministry is cooperating with this embassy, of course, which whom else, because you cannot deal with real issues with a president who has no power in the country.